want is to become a human yourself.
Can you do that?
My dear, sweet child, that's what I do. It's what I live for, to help unfortunate merfolk like yourself. Poor souls with no one else to turn to. I admit that in the past I've been a nasty. They weren't kidding when they called me, well, a witch. But you'll find that nowadays I've mended all my ways, repented, seen the light, and made a switch. 2 years. And I fortunately knew a little magic. It's a talent that I always have possessed. And here lately, please don't laugh, I use it on behalf of the miserable, lonely, and depressed. Pathetic. Poor unfortunate souls in pain, in need. This one longing to be thinner, that one wants to get the girl, and do I help them? Yes, indeed. Those poor unfortunate souls, so sad, so true. They come flocking to my cauldron crying, spells, Ursula, please, and I help them. Yes, I do. Now it's happened once or twice. Someone couldn't pay the price, and I'm afraid I had to rake 'em across the coals. Yes, I've had the odd complaint, but on the whole, I've been a saint. To those poor unfortunate souls.
But without my voice, how can I...
You'll have your looks, your pretty face. And don't underestimate the importance of body language. Ha! The men up there don't like a lot of blabber. They think a girl who gossips is a bore. Yes, on land it's much preferred for ladies not to say a word. And after all, dear, what is idle prattle for? Come on, they're not all that impressed with conversation. True gentlemen avoid it when they can. But they dote and swoon and fawn on a lady who's withdrawn. It's she who holds her tongue who gets a man. Come on, you poor unfortunate soul. Go ahead, make your choice. I'm a very busy woman and I haven't got all day. It won't cost much, just your voice. You poor unfortunate soul. It's sad, but true. If you want to cross a bridge, my sweet, you've got to pay the toll. Take a gulp and take a breath and go ahead and sign the scroll. Flotsam jetsam, now I've got her, boys. The boss is on a roll. This poor, unfortunate soul.
That's right, you know what I'm saying. Your mother's offered me the goods, I'm not paying. It started as a laugh, as a bit of a joke, something funny to say when I was having a smoke. I first heard off this bloke, this fucking rumour going round. Your mother's reputation, it's not sound. She's saving up the pennies, hoping they turn into pounds to have an operation, swap a gender round. It's a shock to me and it's a shock to you. Your mother's got a beard, sandals and a penis too. It don't look right, see, when she's walking down the street to see a ball bag jigging to the beat of her feet. I said, your mother's got a penis. Your mother's got a penis. Your mother's got a penis. That's right, your mother's got a penis. In internet rooms or computer mainframes, there's loads of emails about your mother's blue veins. Not the ones in her legs or the backs of her arms, but the ones in the member hidden in her gam. She walks around proud with a short dress on, which sometimes exposes the tip of her dong. Often it's dripping, sometimes it's dry. No matter when I see her, there's a tear in my eye. I thought I had to tell you how to put it in a letter, but I thought, fuck that, to write the song is much better. The only way to do it, to really let you know, I can prove it cause I gave it a blow. It was purely accidental cause she got me really drunk, and she made me kiss her elephant trunk. You know why? That's right, your mother got a penis. Your mother's got a penis. Your mother's got a penis. Your mother's got a penis. That's right, your mother's got a penis. 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 That's right, your mother's got a penis. When she walks down the street, then she walks like John Wayne. I just seen her picture standing up again. Don't make no sense when you see her here and there. She got a cock and balls of real pubic hair and a single eye that sometimes weeps. Since she's lying on the bed, then she rubs it on the sheets or up against the door or the back of your neck. If your mother's around, then you make the double check. I hate to tell you with all due respect, take your mother to the doctors cause her front bum's wrecked. You know why? Your mother's got a penis.
Come on, Wembley!
Your mother's got a penis.
Your mother's got a penis!
Your mother's got a penis. Your mother's got a penis. That's right, your mother's got a penis. Your mother's got a penis.
Wembley Arena!
Your mother's got a penis.
All right, good afternoon. Welcome to training. It's NHS. That's what it is. And we're coming to you today to talk to you specifically about everything to do with trans inclusion at NHS, because some of my friends, Dr. Upton, and my paedophile mate in handcuffs, has been misgendered, and there's something going on with all of it. It's making me, it's making me ill. It's making us all ill, because what I like to do is
I use public toilets and I piss on the seat.
Anyway, there's some training that my mate Dave did over at Midlands, and I tell you, it's upsetting, right? There's a woman called Sandy Peggy, and you can't even show fucking bigot nurses like that your cock without them like, oh, I'm offended, oh. And as far as I'm concerned, right, whether it's the tip, the testicle, or the whole tumultuous thing, NHS is for testicle and penis inclusion. And if you don't like that, get yourself another job, right? That's what we're saying. That's what we're all saying. So welcome to TIT. This is trans inclusion training. And one thing all of us trans femme mask blokes like is tits. We're obsessed with them. I can't I can't say fairer than that. We're obsessed with tits. That's why we want to see your, that's, it's part of our validation. We're gender dysphoric. That's, I feel gender dysphoria. I feel like I don't want to carry on with my life if I can't invade a woman's space and I can't see tits whenever I fucking feel like it. I'm telling you now, I feel, borderline suicidal. So it's up to you, really, women, to include us in every fucking last space that you've ever created for yourself. I think we should have entry into spaces, vulvas, vaginas, anal canals, anywhere we damn well please, because otherwise we feel really upset and gender dysphoric. Really, I feel really gender. That's why I like to see the wig, which is why I like to wear it low. Anyway, let's have a look at me mate Dave, because he's almost more unfucking believable than I am. So here he is. Oh, look at him. Do you know which one is my mate? Just from, can you tell? Can you tell which one he is? I don't know if you can quite see him. But, one thing us trans femme mask Daves like to do is fill the whole screen with our massive gargantuan faces. All right. So I've covered up my Adam's apple. So, makes me dysphoric.
And you can just throw that out and everyone goes, well, yeah, that sounds superficially plausible. And until you realize that there's all of this evidence that in fact there's always been, there can be as many genders as there are people on the planet, but there have always.
Now, I don't want to say anything about me fellow they them here, but the fact that they've got they them on them means they're super special. It means that in all aspects of their lives, they're so mundane that they've had to introduce a pronoun just so we all know that they exist. Without that they them, you might be persuaded that they are nothing. They've achieved nothing. They've done nothing. They've said nothing, and they are nothing, and they're boring. But she's a they them, and so therefore we all know she's not boring or mundane or achieved nothing.
Always been diverse ways of looking at gender, and just because we're in this homogenized Western culture, we look around us and go, oh.
Can I just say, she's got a faded flag. She's got a faded flag. That means like I'm a they them, And I'm not right in your face because I'm actually female, so I can't be right in your face because that would be too masculine.
Oh, well, everyone's fitting into these two genders. Well, that's because you told them to, and you have been telling them that for hundreds of years.
And the fact that she's got a muted flag means that she's not remotely fitting into the stereotype of what it means to be a woman. That's why I'm like this. And that's why she's one of the smallest heads on the whole screen.
So it's not really a fair sample size. It's not really a fair sample of
declared that everyone gender.
Sexuality, the sky is anything. So it's not as binary as, and there's a little bit about, I think, when people say, I think particularly men, and
he's going to say something right profound now. So just steady on, grab your cup of tea or something.
When men are struggling with the thought of a trans woman, I kind of believe they're giving themselves
an erection. I think he's going to say that because that's how most men feel about women such as myself. They're just aroused, like day and night aroused.
Gender dysphoria. Hear me out. I kind of believe that what they're thinking is a little bit that imagines themselves if they were to have dressed as a woman, if they had fake nails on, if they're going, no, I wouldn't. Do you see what I mean? Whereas actually what we're saying,
it's breaking up, and what he's saying is that most men think of trans women and get sexually aroused. That's what he's saying.
Is kind of the opposite. What we're kind of saying is you are as you are now, but you're just in the skin and etc. of a woman. The straight male.
I'm just going to say it's too exciting. I can't carry on. I want to get on to Dave. I mean Brenda, John, Doris. I can't remember her name.
Let's say,
or not.
No, thank you very much, Charlie, and thank you for everybody. We managed to fill the time till Jenny's session.
Oh, now Jenny's going to come on and she's going to say something fantastic in English. Ready, Jenny? Okay.
So I think we are now ready to move on, and we welcome Jenny.
Jenny, we can't see you. You're so very, very small. So very small, Jenny. We can't see you. Can you make your face bigger on the screen? It's so small. We can't see you.
For her part of the conference. Jenny?
All right.
Thank you. I've spotlighted myself. Not that I want to be seen big on screen, but we've got a lot of people on the screen. And thank you so much for inviting me in. Forgive me.
I'll tell you what. One thing Jenny does that some of you can't do is take it on the chin. That's our Jenny. Always. She's great.
I've not been able to see the previous session, which sounds fascinating. I've just been doing a session for history.
And also, if you're wondering why Jenny's out of breath, I don't know.
Month in the other trust, so I've literally come off that for an hour, for half an hour. So forgive me if I'm.
I'll tell you what, she's just had a lunch. You can tell because she's, regurgitating.
Stomp or repeat things people have said, but everything I've heard is fascinating, and I've been looking a bit in your chat. Well, thanks for inviting me, and this is all down to your colleague David, who's in the room here, who's been. And we've been helping each other over some inclusion.
Bet you have, Jenny. Bet you've helped him a lot.
Inclusion matters over the last few weeks, and it's great to have. And he's got to know me, and he seems to understand very quickly that I quite like talking for a living. You've heard from some people,
well, can't have you doing actual work, can we?
Which is great because you're hearing from another one. I've been in the NHS for 37 years and been a trade union rep for just about all that time.
That's with the help of Jenny in those trade unions, that's why Sandy Peggy, I've been a nurse, I'm a nurse, I help people. Sandy Peggy doesn't even want to see a trans woman's beautiful penis. That's why Sandy is in such a tricky situation, and we're happy for it. I'm here for that. Let's make nurses frightened again.
So you're going to hear again from a union rep, but I'll try not to try and recruit you all if those are some of you that are not.
Especially if you're women and you want some fucking rights. Right, Jenny.
So I'm going to just talk about my own story. Am I okay? You've got me down till past. I don't know how long I'm going to speak for. I'll try my very best not to overrun, and I might underrun a bit. So please yank me off if you think I'm going on too long. Are you, Henrietta, are you the chairing of this? So please feel free to interrupt me and yank me off that sounds weird. Pull me off the talk if you need to.
Oh, yeah. You know, all Jenny wants is to be yanked off and pulled off. Yeah, it's what we all want, isn't it? You know, it's what we all want. Yanked off, pulled off. Oh, it's so funny. Oh, Mrs. Let's hear Jenny's very brave story of coming out.
No, that's right. We're doing that with Declan together.
That, all right, both of you, please do. Right.
I'm just going to wind that back. I feel that might be important.
I've heard from some people, which is great because you're hearing from another one. I've been in the NHS for 37 years and been a trade union rep for just about all that time. So you're going to hear again from a union rep, but I'll try not to try and recruit you all if those are some of you that are not. So I'm going to just talk about my own story. Am I okay? You've got me down till past. I don't know how long I'm going to speak for. I'll try my very best not to overrun, and I might underrun a bit. So please yank me off if you think I'm going on too long. Are you, Henrietta, are you the chairing of this? So please feel free to interrupt me and yank me off that sounds weird. Pull me off the talk if you need to.
No, that's right. We're doing that with Declan together.
All right, so she's doing Declan as well. Well, you know, we like to share.
All right, both of you, please do. Right, so just a bit about me. As I said, I've worked in the NHS for, it's nearly 37 years. So it's more my life. I've never known anything else. But I certainly haven't been Jenny in the NHS of all that time.
No, it's mostly Dave Porter. Mostly, you know, women sort of avoided, you know, Dave.
So just to sort of start where I am is I grew up in the 70s and 80s. Technically the 60s as well. I was born in 68.
I mean, this is, I don't know about you, but for me, it's riveting. Absolute riveting. What amazing training this is. It's amazing. Amazing. I hope we hear everything about Jenny gaslighting the family and everything. I hope we hear methods for that.
And I realise people often ask a trans person, when did you first know? And it's always difficult to pinpoint.
Because it's very difficult to make up a legitimate sounding story. So some of us go back as far as 3, mother's tights, maybe marigolds. Some of us talk about mother's knickers, but not very many of us are that honest.
With anybody, when it's a sexuality or your gender identity, when you first had that realisation.
I'll tell you what I think Jenny's brave for is the Progress Pride cock ring just over the shoulder that you can, I mean, you can't say fairer than that.
My memory is probably the age of 10, the end of primary school, realising that I was a girl and then realising that nobody else saw me that way. I didn't understand it. That's crazy. Nobody else is talking about that.
Did you hear that? He realised, she realised. Like me, I realised, after I bought the first 20 editions of Playboy I ever read, I realised I was a lesbian myself, you know.
I must just be weird and odd, and had no understanding. We didn't have the language. I didn't have the language to understand it. I just felt I was weird. I was wrong. I had no sort of place in the world. I didn't understand why. And, you know, and this is what, for so many people,
so many trans people, what you don't understand is the revisionist stuff that we do to make all this plausible is fucking hard work. It's fucking hard work, I tell you.
Who grew up, particularly in the 80s and 90s with Section 28, reinforced, didn't it? And I'm sure people have talked about that. So my teenage years of...
Because, you know, Section 28 was everything to do with wearing your mum's knickers. So don't let anyone tell you it was about anything else. It was about nothing else. It was just preventing men like me wearing women's clothes.
Filled with feeling ashamed for who I am. Why don't fit in? Internal shame. Couldn't express it to anybody. Feeling confused. But also...
What I've done with that internal shame is I've made it an external kink. You know, just like Jenny. I mean... If this doesn't say value for money training, I don't know what does.
feeling I knew what I wanted to be and I wanted to live. From that moment of realization at the age of about 10, every single morning I woke up thinking, why aren't I a girl? I couldn't explain it. I just knew it.
This is great. You know, this is what we all say, isn't it? Yeah, it's absolutely great.
But that was, and I don't think that's necessarily typical. That's not untypical of my generation. So I'm in my 50s. If you look now,
I'm really excited to find out exactly when Jenny told his teenage daughters that she was a woman.
I mean, you see more and more younger people able to come out, transition, even at school, even though that's still difficult. And despite all the challenges of today, the rising in awareness has meant that's very different. So my generation, my story is about my generation. So
I just want you all to remember when you're watching this, this is senior management watching this at NHS being trained, because our Jenny is wonderful. You know, our Jenny goes all over the country being paid by the NHS to talk this sort of truth to power. Truth.
Some respects and won't apply to everybody. And in many ways, when you've heard from one trans person, you've only heard from one trans person.
Wow. Profound. Just profound.
But I'm sure many of us who are gender diverse in any way will recognise parts of our story. When I left school, went to university, I was never out to anybody. And then I found work in the NHS and started to work in the Arch. I never told anybody. God knows that anybody would know my deep, dark secret that I was a woman.
Sorry, Jenny, that's brave.
Nobody knew it. Nobody saw it. And I just tried to make my place in life and settle in. I got married, and I didn't love my wife, but that marriage didn't last. But being married was part of trying to fit in and adapt. And in many ways,
you know, with me, I'm not saying it was the same with Jenny, but with me, it was a sad day when my wife caught me buying stuff out of Freeman's catalogue, and she saw me paying in book, and she saw that I'd spent absolutely a fortune on underwear, and then she found the Polaroids, and you know, and she left me, and I don't really understand. She didn't accept me. She was a bigot. So, you know, it was probably about 1,500 Polaroids I'd done that month that she found. And, you know, I'm not saying that was the same with Jenny. Perhaps Jenny didn't do that to her wife. But, you know, it's a story, isn't it?
I got on with that. But I was never being authentic to myself. I was never truly happy. But I did come to the point, and it would have been about 2003, 2004. Well, actually a bit earlier than that. Late 90s, I think, is when I found a community. Because up to then, the only trans person...
I wonder if it was that lovely house you can go where you can dress up with other men. I wonder if it... Because I joined that. Belmarsh or something. Beaumont Society. I found a community of cross-dressing perverts that I joined. I don't remember Jenny, but she might have, you know, been there herself.
And you'd see on the telly or news was they were either serial killers or figures of ridicule, weren't we, in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, it's a shame we've moved on from that, really, Jenny. I'm not going to lie.
That was generally what you saw, or you'd see some comedy, and it was generally mocking. But there was a growing...
But the thing is, right, you look at Jenny and you don't feel like mocking, do you? You don't feel like mocking Jenny. You think that's a serious person, isn't it? And so we've really moved on from that, because now Jenny's coercing women into calling her a woman. So we've got so far, you know, it's great.
There was a growing awareness coming in towards the turn of that century, and we started to...
I just want you to be reminded, all of you, every last one of you watching, this is stunning and brave and super intelligent, intellectual Jenny, who's given talks right throughout the NHS about inclusion of brave people like us. And I just want you to remember that Jenny's paid to do that, and the people watching will be senior management in the NHS throughout all different trusts. And that's amazing. That's wow, isn't that amazing? You know, just to think it really wasn't that long ago that you know Jenny was giving mermaids feet. So well done, Jenny.
Adopt the term LGBT as a term, because before then it was just lesbian and gay, or gay liberation, wasn't it, were the terms that was used back then. And I found a community online, but not in the sort of social media days where
I reckon it was Beaumont. You know what you could do at Beaumont, you could gaslight your wives, take yourself and dress up with other brave trans women.
now it was chat rooms. If everybody's old enough to remember sort of chat rooms and Microsoft Messenger, this all ages me. But I remember finding a chat room for, and at the time, the late 90s, we still referred to ourselves as transsexuals and transvestites. It's
Oh God, yeah. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Instead of just, you know, men.
language I don't feel comfortable with now, but that's the language we had. So we found ourselves in rooms talking to other people and finding a community there that we could bond to. And before that, there was no way of finding a community. I live in North Staffordshire. There was no community of trans people, or even.
I don't know about you, but I'm finding this so exciting and enthralling. It's riveting. Absolutely riveting stuff. NHS leadership.
LGBT people. So that's where I found my community. And despite all my difficulties with the internet and social media now, I'll never forget that, because I found a place of belonging through going and finding myself in chat rooms.
Oh, honestly, I tell you, when I were in chat rooms in the 90s, you could get to climax in seconds because everybody was just, you know, encouraging.
So I started to understand a bit more who I was. But I never thought I could transition. I never thought it was possible. Everything physically was not in my favour. I'm 6'2", built like the side of a house, the clumsiest, the least graceful person you will meet. And I never thought it was going to be possible. I'd sort of.
Oh, what gets me, makes me so proud, is that 6'2", Jenny is in spaces with women, making them fucking petrified. I can't tell you how much that makes me proud on behalf of all us AGPs. You know, the fact that Jenny not only is using women's spaces, but also telling other people not to accept it if women don't want us in. Like, it's, you know, it just warms my groin.
To resign myself to that was going to be the lot for me. I thought, this is never going to work for me. But somehow I did start to find that confidence to think it was possible. And
the right level of manipulation and coercion, Jenny, you can bloody do it, love. You can do it.
And I remember one turning point I remember. It's really weird. I'd found, we had a trade union office I worked out of, and we ended up in one that was separate from the main building, and I could often stay after work in that office.
What did you do, Jenny? Come on, tell us.
And it was at that point I decided to explore things a bit more, and I ordered myself a wig. And I just remember sitting in my office at 7 o'clock. Everybody else had gone.
He's obviously moved on from wigs now, that natural style.
Home. And for the first time in my life, I put a wig on, because I had really short hair at the time, and tried to put a bit of makeup and looked in the mirror.
Oh, we can all imagine, can't we? We can all feel what Jenny was feeling. Aroused, you know, beyond all measure, sexually satisfied, and doing it at work as well. That added little thrill must have been a dream.
And I sobbed because I saw somebody that
cry wanked as well. Yeah.
Could be me, and I sort of recognised them and didn't recognise them. But that moment of it feeling.
I saw myself as a woman, and fuck me, it was great.
Possible is so visceral with me still now, of that thing that said, actually, you can be who you are. The only thing I can relate to that was the sort of discovering it a little bit when I was 10, but finding out I was a girl and then realising I couldn't.
But when I was 10, I'd actually made it up. So now I'm telling you the truth, you know, about trying on wigs and
do anything about it was heartbreaking. Finding myself in the early 2000s and thinking this might be possible was amazing to me. And my marriage had already broken down for other reasons. So
Yeah, other reasons. Yeah, Jenny. Other reasons. Yeah.
I was lucky, I think, in some respects. I didn't have a family of my own, didn't have children to worry about.
That is lucky. That's bloody lucky.
Because I know I have friends that were in the same boat as me and needed to try.
I've met online, you know, we all meet each other online and talk about those selfish bitches that we married.
Transition, but were scared of losing their family, scared of losing their jobs. There's all those things that you're terrified of. I was sort of lucky that I knew that the NHS would accept me because
yeah, lucky for patients, lucky for nurses, lucky for everyone else.
Would worked in it so long, and I knew the values that people had in the NHS.
I'd love to skip on, but I'm finding this riveting, and I think it's really important to know that not only do the NHS pay for this coercive manipulation, but just how high quality it is. So I think it's important.
This is North Sask Combined Healthcare Trust, who I still work for along with Midlands Partnership. So it started to become possible. I started to see that I could do this. And that from that one moment on.
What I really like about Jenny is she's not disguising the inner bloke.
Where I saw myself and looked at myself and thought, you can do this, Jenny.
Sorry, I've got a cough. I'm really pleased for Jenny that he was able to look at himself and saw himself and said, yeah, I can do this. I'd like a mirror like that myself, Jenny.
There was an inevitability about it, and it really didn't take that long. I think a lot of people who transition takes a lot longer for them, and they have steps and they've got to manage, families and all that sort of stuff. Sort of wasn't me. It had an inevitability.
Those coercion steps are really difficult and very slow for many of us, Jenny. You're absolutely right. Like gaslighting and manipulating all around, it takes time, energy and practice.
Ability about it. And over those next couple of years, I started to get more confident. And I got to the point where I thought, I'm going to do this. And my process was, and I think it's very different now because we have hopefully we will have policies, or we're working on.
I really don't want to fast forward, so I'm ever so sorry, everyone.
And having policies that help people transition in at work.
I'm gonna.
They've been in closet for 35 was pretty much sound like a woman, and then there was ability is sort of part of my role. So for my very first day as a woman in the NHS, I had to present at something called Improving Working Lives. This will age it if anybody remembers Improving Working Lives. I'm seeing a couple of nods. You're just out in your age there, which was where trusts, I think, went and visited each other to look at things to improve working lives and lots of metrics. So you
see, when you lot thinking about the NHS and how it's changed quite recently, you're wrong, aren't you? Because we've been, me, Jenny and the lads, we've been trying to manipulate this whole workforce for such a long time, and we do it through unions as well as in this. So, it's going to take really strong leadership to get us out. And in that meantime, we're gonna get as many nurses sacked as fucking possible.
We would go and visit other trusts, and they would come and visit us. So we'd had a visit from Improving Working Lives. So they come from external trusts, and there were senior managers of the trust there as well. And that my first morning was doing a presentation to 40 people as a woman, first time in the NHS. I couldn't get out of it, and I'd made the jump, and I was just the most amazingly nervous person in the world, and thinking, how a minute are going to...
But in many ways, Jenny, not nervous or frightened enough. So you did it, didn't you? Look at that face. Look at that. Dupers, delight. I love it, Jenny. I'm here for that.
I'm going to explain this because I hadn't been able to tell them that they were going to have a presentation by a 6'2" trans woman with a.
And nobody could tell. Nobody could tell.
With a far too deep Stoke accent for to sound like a woman, and then there was not the awareness that is now. So in 2005 there was some growing awareness, but most people hadn't come across trans people, I always try to use humour as a way of.
Look at my penis! Yay! Ooh. Funny. It's hilarious. What's that in your trousers? It's me knob.
Of coping in that first few years, and I remember I used it in that meeting, and I still did it. I still occasionally use it today. If you remember 2005, it was the year we were implementing Agenda for Change. So stuff you can see where we're going. So I sort of basically stood here and said, I'm Jenny, this is my first day as a woman, and I've transitioned, and I just want to dispel rumours that I am not transitioned today because I misunderstood what Agenda for Change meant.
Oh, fucking hell. Oh, I bet everyone was crying with laughter to that. I would have gone with what's in my pocket. Ooh.
It got a few groans and still does now, but I use that sort of weird humour. If people misgendered me.
He says weird, I say shit, you know. Horses for courses.
I tended to try and laugh it off a little bit because my default was to make other people feel comfortable. I think,
which is why I'm 6'2" in a dress, because, you know, I'm the same as Jenny. Like, my whole life is about making people feel comfortable. So if I'm 6'2" wearing a dress where you can see the outline of my penis, right? Then that's just to make everyone around me feel great and feel comfortable. You know, that's me. That's just me. You know,
I think a lot of us do that when we're different. We try and make other people feel comfortable. I so regret that now. I so regret that I wasn't.
Make up for lost time, Jenny. Just impose yourself wherever you can.
When I transitioned, they've allowed me to.
Boring.
Person will have forgotten it straight away. I'd love to meet them now. The impact that had on me, I'm doing it right now by just taking those extra steps. And I'd love to meet that cashier again and just say thank you. Because I think it's amazing, because that's such a tough time, right? And actually,
I'm just gonna. I can't. I'm actually too excited to listen to too much.
Actually, she's been living life as a woman so long. Nobody really pay my wages, you know, and I'm a nurse. I'm not going to care. And I don't think we. Sure. So that activism started becoming more and more a part of my working life, and leading up to really in a sense where I am now in terms of a lot of work. I deliver trans inclusion training. I've helped write policies. I love
obsessed with tit.
Speaking on the subject and meeting people like yourselves. Every time I do this and see 40 people with support, being supportive and listening to us, that makes my mental health, which has suffered in the last few years, so much better, you know. And it's suffered not because it's because of what's happening in the wider society, I think. I also want to, that's sort of been a bit my career into where I am now. And I will come back to that a little bit at the end. But I also wanted to talk about being a patient in the NHS. I think a lot of you working, am I wrong in a lot of working?
I'm just trying to gather if lovely, brave Jenny here is a nurse.
Finance, is that right? No, I know you all don't, but I noticed it was on that group. Maybe yes or no. One of the things I don't think we do well enough in the NHS is just reinforcing that every part of the NHS is about caring for patients, because finance definitely are, because if finance people don't pay my wages, you know, and I'm a nurse, I'm not going to care. And I don't think we mind our staff.
It's wonderful. I hope Jenny's using all female spaces.
Enough. I always urge people to managers in functions that might not seem traditionally patient facing to just remind ourselves that everything we're doing is making people's lives better. And I've been a patient as a trans person, and I think we've still got much to do in the NHS to make our NHS better for trans people and get better health outcomes, because as a community we have worse health outcomes than almost any other.
And it's nothing to do with taking hormones that don't suit our bodies at all. Nothing to do with that.
My sort of two experiences as a patient in the NHS. Well, the first one, I guess, was going to gender identity services. In 2005, there wasn't the NHS has always accepted that it's important care. I worked with them in the trust, so there's somebody I worked with, which is a strange mechanism. But I got referred to that gender identity clinic down in London at the time. I think it was probably the only functioning one.
Some people say we shouldn't be funding it at all. And I say my fetish requires it.
Charing Cross, a little sitting in the waiting room there, and a young trans person was sitting next to me in tears, and I asked them why, and she said, "Well, I've just been in to see my clinician. They've told me off for wearing a short skirt at this time of the year." And I said, "How dare forgive me, a cisgendered man."
So you could see your cock. Is that what they said? I bet it was.
And tell you how
Bastards.
you should dress as a girl, and they were really receptive of this and saying just little things like giving a trans person a bit of time and space to get themselves ready before you all come in as professionals. And everybody, I think, feels vulnerable when they're sure that they saw them, prove you're a woman. It's ridiculous, really. I've heard of people saying they don't usually wear skirts as women, but they wore skirts and dresses because they wanted to be seen. I hope things have improved somewhat since then.
Yeah, they should just take our word for it. That's all.
I mean, the one thing it hasn't proved is the waiting lists have got worse and worse and are cruel, and have ended up with people. It's cruel that it's been cited by some coroners when.
I'm listening to this, and every part of me is just saying it's unbelievable, isn't it? It's unbelievably amazing that this actually constitutes something the NHS have paid someone to do. It's unbelievable.
At least 2 people have taken their own lives for those cruel waiting lists that we know exists.
Yeah, unlike those fucking bigots dying of cancer while they're waiting for treatment.
So there's been some progress for gender conservatives, but there's far more to come, and it's really difficult. My second, I guess, experience as a patient has been when I was an inpatient in hospital. I broke my leg one Monday.
I don't know if Jenny was always this exciting with everything she ever says, but I'm finding this, like I said, it's truly riveting, stuff. It's oh dear, it's amazing, isn't it? Oh, I've just lost my place.
Being a working woman in the NHS in my weird, sometimes now, it still hurts, right? But I think we often forget about how empowering it is, because you might be the first person to pay my wages, and I'm in a difficult experience of my life, because not only was I feeling those cruel waiting lists that we know exist, and I fell down the stairs and remember being at the bottom of the stairs with my leg pointing in the wrong direction, going, oh my God. I crawled to the front door and phoned for an ambulance, and there I was. And I ended up in A&E, and they pulled my leg straight. I ended up as a patient, first of all, on the acute wards.
I just want to say that Jenny's been allowed to speak like this because she's such a special person. Other people, they might have been critical about such a lengthy presentation with no rest or respite or break or interval or slides or anything, but it's because Jenny's so special that nobody says a fucking word.
Orthopedic ward, a really busy ward.
Okay.
Amazon account, one of the addresses is, I thought the nurses might worry. You can't predict who's going to adapt to it easier than others. In my training, I say to them, I understand, when somebody, you come across a trans patient. I think this particularly for non-binary colleagues, because I think people do struggle sometimes with pronouns for non-binary people. I think more than binary trans people like me. I mean, it's pretty obvious, I guess, if you saw me, if you were going to make assumption, you use she and her. But I think non-binary people have an extra challenge because they often have to just keep reminding people. I know non-binary colleagues can get exhausted with having to remind people where we're at now. But I think that we need to, that's a part of healthcare that is, months after I changed my details, I was sent for a cervical screening test. And it was great because on one hand, they were completely respecting me as a woman, but I'll be honest with you, they'd have had a hell of a job conducting that test if I'd turned up. Budget of the NHS, it definitely isn't. So we're fighting for that now. It seems we're fighting. The only reference to me is a diagnosis of gender dysphoria in 2005. So who's going to be looking at that? So there is definitely things we can improve as patients.
Just waiting for Jenny's brave moment when she talks about fucking bigots in the NHS.
I think I just want to come on then to the end, which is what touches a bit on what I know you've already been talking about, is what we need to do now, because frankly, I would say for trans people in particular, but the whole community, the whole LGBTQ community is under pressure like it's never been before. We've made such progress. I did a session on the history and looking back at the history. If you look at the years from 2000 onwards, about the amount of progress made year on.
I'm just going to check in with you. You're all still awake, because Jenny's soothing voices, it's just fucking, just wonderful.
1 year of, legalization, equality, discrimination laws coming in, equal quality.
For gays, love, Jenny, I don't know if you remember, for gays and lesbians, it was never for us straight men in dresses, was it?
Act coming into place, Equal Marriage, Gender Recognition Act, although not perfect, was a starting point, right? Year on year of that productivity, and then we look at the last 10 years since 2015, and then we look at, and somebody referenced what's happening in the wider sphere over the last 7 or 8 years. It's extraordinary the point we're at the moment, and it feels like we're having to fight for that. And we feel that the whole of EDI has been, in the last government, the health secretary said we shouldn't be employing EDI specialists anymore.
I go further myself, much further.
And in some way that in the scheme of things, that was a massive strain on the budget of the NHS. It definitely isn't. So we're fighting for that now. It seems we're fighting to keep hold of these things. We're certainly at the moment as trans people fighting to keep respected in the NHS. I know I've seen nothing but love and acceptance and support in the trusts I work for, in the work I do. We are seeing a rise in transphobia in the workplace. I've had to deal with a situation of somebody in influence in our trust with very strong gender critical activism views, who's ended up in a position where they're able to be in meetings, and we've had to deal with that. I did of posting some really unacceptable what I would regard as anti-trans, but they would say gender critical rules, and we're in a weird space with the law on this now with protected belief, which I don't think trust. I
don't think we should. I think if my penis wants to go in a space, in a body, in a changing room, in a toilet, that's where it's going to go.
I use public toilets and I piss on the seat.
Really understand what that means. To me, what that means is you may have gender critical views against trans people. Nobody can sack you or discipline you for holding those views.
We fucking should, though, shouldn't we? Sack them all.
But that doesn't mean you can harass people in the workplace by expressing them without due care in those wrong places. And I think people don't understand that. And we're seeing that to a degree with what's happening with the case in Scotland that's made a lot of the media now. And I do think I've spoken as well. I think every trust needs to have a conversation about understanding what are they going to do if they have a member of staff saying that we've had a clinician saying, I can't, my religion, they said, means that I can't use people's pronouns properly.
I don't know. Look, bigots, isn't it?
Trans people. Which to my mind is maybe a belief, but that's against our policies and our values, and I would argue against. And they've ended up with some sort of compromise. I think they just refer to everybody as the patient, right? So they avoid using pronouns.
What a bitch, isn't she? Transphobic bitch.
Pronouns, which is crazy, because I'd argue you're also choosing to do something that isn't in the best interest of the patient. Because as I said, it's a positive thing to get it right. So I think lots of trusts are facing these things. And I know, talking to my colleague David, more and more of just things like getting a policy.
Thanks for the mention, Jenny.
In place. I don't know how your trusts are doing. We've got a really good policy in place. But I think it's been in place for 2 years, but trying to get one in place now when you're liable to have other people coming in with gender critical views saying, oh no.
Exactly. Before you could do it by stealth. Get them all in, right? Get them all in. Shut the fucking women up. You could do that. But now, some of these women, they're objecting because they know about it and they're looking for it. But before, you could just do it all in secret.
No, we can't say in a policy that trans women are women, trans men and men and non-binary people are more than valid. We can't say that,
Can't.
You've seen that, a rise of that. I attended a rather worrying session with NHS England. I think it was a Rainbow Badge. We were talking about policies and training, and so many trusts are seeming to row back a bit and be in a defensive mind step and saying changing the language they use for fear of these sort of attacks as being gender critical. I remember doing a networking session around the Rainbow Badge, and I got onto the subject of social media.
Just to remind you, NHS pays our Jenny for this incredible, exciting, informative, some might say historic training. Historic.
And nearly every trust had had a pile-on for a social media account when they've been using inclusive language. That trust has.
I'd hate for anybody to think that it's a good idea to do that and it's having an impact, because that would be terrible. Every time there's a post, every time they do a policy, even in the badge scheme, I'd hate women standing up for their rights to think that they're making any progress whatsoever. So they do more of these sort of protests and standing up for themselves. It would be terrible.
That you do that on social media and then you get organised, Piers Morgan gets hold of it or something like that. That happened in the case of our trust. And
well, Jenny, have I got news for you?
And just trying to reach out with inclusive language means you get a pile on. And hey, so I think every trust has had that. So I think we are in that fight at the moment. But I know from the people I work with in my trusts that I've had nothing but steadfast support from executives down about what.
Let's just remind you, Jenny's 6'2", and Jenny, like me, thinks that all men, all trans women, trans femme, masc, femme, non-binary femme, men, can go wherever they bloody well like. There's not a thing that any of you can do about it, except social pile-ons, which actually work and make these NHS trusts think twice.
We do, and they see the benefit. It's not just the moral right thing to do, because it definitely is, but it's the right thing to do for the NHS in what we're looking to deliver. I think we need to keep making that point stronger and in every chance we can. But I realise how difficult it is for everybody. And
wow, that's our Jenny. Is wonderful. So that's I'm just so proud to stand alongside our Jenny, and it's absolutely marvelous. And if we all can just make sure that Jenny is more looked after, that'd be great. Wow, sorry, I don't know why it's done that.
But you'll find that nowadays I've mended all my ways, repented, seen the light, and made a switch. 2 years. And I fortunately knew a little magic. It's a talent that I always have possessed. And here lately, please don't.
Anyway, I just wanted to talk about Jenny today and the amazing work that she's been doing across the NHS with your money, everything that you pay into the NHS to make it exactly what it is today. So, I'm bringing an album out myself. If you'd like to listen to any of it, it's one of my favourite tracks.
In internet rooms or computer mainframes, there's loads of emails about your mother's blue veins. Not the ones in her legs or the backs of her arms, but the ones in the member hidden in her gown. She walks around proud with a short dress on, which sometimes exposes the tip of her dong. Often it's dripping, sometimes it's dry. No matter when I see her, there's a tear in my eye. I thought I had to tell you how to put it in a letter, but I thought, fuck that, to write the song is much better. The only way to do it, to really let you know. I can prove it because I gave it a blow. It was purely accidental because she got me really drunk. And she made me kiss her elephant trunk. You know why? That's right. Your mother got a penis. Your mother's got a penis.
That's like an anthem for me and Jenny. Anyway, NHS training, TIT, trans inclusion training. So if you've enjoyed that and you think it's a good thing, find out how much your trust has paid on training of TIT this year, trans inclusive TIT. Just find out, because there's nothing that me and Jenny love more than TIT. Really enjoying everything that we've done today.
I use public toilets and I piss on the seat.
Thanks for joining. This is me, Barbara, having a right good time on the NHS dime. See you soon.